Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll implement CRUD operations using spring-data-jpa. Okay, let's go to STSID. Here, let's first create the Spring Boot application. File, new, Spring Starter project. Let me give the application name, that is spring-data-jpa application. I'm choosing Maven as a build tool. I'm using Java 17. Then let me provide the group ID, that is com.code by Swami, and artifact ID is same as application name, and let me provide the package name, that is com.code by Swami. That's it. Click next. Now let me choose the required dependencies such as Spring Web. By using this dependency, we can build web applications and REST APIs using Spring MVC, and it uses Tomcat as a default embedded container. And I'm also choosing spring-data-jpa. Spring-data-jpa. I'm selecting spring-data-jpa. By using this dependency, we can persist data in SQL, stores with the Java Persistence API using Spring Data and Hibernate. And also I'm selecting MySQL driver. It provides MySQL JDBC driver. And I'm selecting Lombok dependency. It reduces boilerplate code by providing required annotations. Click next. Finish. Now our application is getting created. Let's open the application. Open SRC main resources. Open application.properties file. Let me maximize the text. Press Ctrl and click on plus symbol like this. Now we need to connect our Spring Boot application with MySQL database. So that we need to configure JDBC URL, MySQL database username and password, and Hibernate properties. Before providing these properties, let's go to MySQL Workbench. Here let me create the database. Here I'm creating database, that is create database name. I'm using database name as products. Let's execute this query. Let's refresh schemas. See here. Products database created successfully. Now we can use this database. Let's copy this. Let's go to IDE. Here let me provide JDBC URL. Here we will provide MySQL database URL, that is spring.datasource.url, that is JDBC :MySQL : / localhost : the port number is 3306 / here we can provide database name. Let's paste that copied database name here. That's it. And let me give the MySQL database username, that is spring.datasource.username, that is root. And we need to provide the password also root. Actually here MySQL direct is optional. And let me provide Hibernate properties, that is spring.jpa.ddl-auto. Actually we have create, drop, create only, drop, none, truncate, update, validate. These properties are used to customize the Hibernate database scheme generation process. Here I'm using update. And also I'm using spring.jpa.showSQL is true. It is used to display the SQL queries generated by the Hibernate in the console. And also I'm using one more property, that is spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.format_SQL. That is true. It will format the SQL query. Here we have provided URL and MySQL database credentials and Hibernate properties. Now let's start the application. Right click on the application, run as Spring Boot application. Tomcat server started and running on port number 8080. See here, this is the connection. That means our Spring Boot application is successfully connected with MySQL database. Let's stop the application. Open src main Java. See, this is root package. Inside this root package, I am creating one more package, that is entity. Inside this entity package, I am creating Java class, that is product. Inside this product class, let me provide some instance variables such as private, integer, id, private, string, name, private, string, description, private, double, price. And also we need to provide private, string, image URL. Here we have provided these instance variables inside this class. Now let me define the Lambda connotation such as @data annotation, @allArgs constructor, and @noArgs constructor. See here, this is data annotation. Let's go inside this annotation. This data annotation provides getter methods, setter methods, required args constructor, toString method, equals, and hashcode method. Instead of providing separate annotation, simply we can use @data annotation. Internally, it will provide getter methods, setter methods, required arg constructor, toString, and equals and hashcode methods. Simply I am using @data annotation on top of this class. This is allArgs constructor. @allArgs constructor annotation to provide parameterized constructor. And noArgs constructor, it provides zero argument constructor, like that. And I'm using @entity annotation. This entity annotation belongs to Jakarta.persistence package. This entity annotation marks the normal Java class as JPA entity. And also I am defining table annotation to provide table name. Here I am providing table name, that is products. Here I am using @id annotation to provide the primary key to this entity. And also I am using @generated value. By using this annotation, we can provide primary key generation strategy. That is strategy. Here I am using identity. Here I am using identity as a primary key generation strategy. And also we will use column annotations. Column, here we can provide name, for example, product name, like this. Actually, this table annotation and this column annotations are optional. If you are not providing table annotation and column annotation, then JP will consider this class name as a database table name and this field name as a database table column name. Here it is not required now. Let's remove this. Now we are ready with product entity. Now let's create JPA repository interface. Inside main package, I am creating one more package, that is repository. Inside this repository package, I am creating interface, that is product repository. This product repository interface is extending from JPA repository. Actually, this JPA repository is a generic. For that, I am providing entity as the first parameter and primary key data type as the second parameter. Here, I am providing product as the entity. This is the first argument, and I am providing integer. This is primary key data type, that is integer. Let's go inside this class. This is the primary key, right? The primary key data type is integer. Here I am using integer. And on top of this repository, here I am using repository annotation. Let's go inside JPA repository interface. Let's open its implementation. See here, this is simple JPA repository is the class. It is implementing from JPA repository. The simple JPA repository implementing from JPA repository implementation interface. Let's go inside this interface. This JPA repository implementation interface internally extending from JPA repository. And the simple JPA repository is the class. Internally, it is annotated with @repository annotation and transactional annotation. So here we are not required to mention @repository annotation explicitly. Let's remove this like this. And also this JP repository internally extending from list CRUD repository. Let's go inside this repository. List CRUD repository internally extending from CRUD repository. Let's go inside this repository. This is a CRUD repository. See here, this is a save method, saveAll method, findById method, existById method, findAll method, and findAll_by_id method, count method, deleteById method, and delete methods. These are the inbuilt methods provided by spring-data-jpa. We will use these methods to implement CRUD operations. Let's go to start class. This is the starter class. The Spring Boot application execution begin from this class. Here this class is implementing from command line runner. Let's override the run method. Here we need to implement CRUD operations. This is one way, and we have another way. Let's remove this. Let's go to src test java. This is the root package. Inside this package I am creating one package, that is repository. Inside this repository package I am creating one class, that is product repository test. On top of this class I am using @spring boot test annotation. @spring boot test annotation is used to load full application context of Spring Boot application. And let's inject product repository. For that I am creating one field, that is private product repository. On top of this field I am using @auto_word annotation. This is field injection. Inside this class I am creating JIN test case. Here we are not implementing complete repository layer related test cases. Here I am using test cases only for testing. Let me declare the method, that is void save product test. On top of this method I am using @test. Now let's create the product object. Create product. Here I am creating product object. Product is equals to new product. Here we need to set the product data. Product.set product name. Set name, that is product1. And product.set product price, for example 5,000. And the product.set product description, that is product1 description. And product.set image URL, that is product1.png. After this we need to save the product. Save product. For that I am using this product repository. Product repository dot, we have save method, that is inbuilt method, which is provided by spring-data-jpa. Here we need to provide this object like this. It returns product object, that is saved product. And display product information, display product details. Simply I am writing sysout saved product. Now let's start the JUnit test case. Control function F11. See, this is the saved product details, and inside code is also printed on the console. See here, the JUnit test case executed successfully. Let's go to MySQL workbench, refresh schemas. We have products table. See here, the data successfully inserted in products table, that is ID is equal to 1 and description, image URL, name and price. Now let's update the product details. Here I am implementing method, that is void update product test. On top of this method, I'm using test annotation. In order to update the product data, first we need to retrieve the data. So let me add the comment that is fetch product entity by ID. In order to fetch the product details, here I'm using product repository. Product repository we have findById method. This is inbuilt method. Here we need to provide ID. Let's go to MySQL workbench. See here product ID is equal to 1. I am using ID is equal to 1. Here I am providing ID 1 dot get. This get method returns product entity, returns product object like this. After that, we need to update the entity information. Let me write the comment update entity details. So I'm using this product dot set product name. Here I'm providing updated product 1. Similarly, product dot set product description, that is updated product 1 description. I want to update only these two fields. Now let's save the updated entity. Let me write the comment save updated entity. So product repository dot save. This save method will perform save operation as well as update operation. If the data is not available in the database, it will perform save operation. If the data is already available in the database, it will perform update operation. Here let me provide product object returns product. Let me provide the variable name that is updated product. Let's display the product details. Display the product details. Simply I'm using sysout updated product. Let's run the JUnit test case. Control function F11. The JUnit test case executed successfully. See here the product name that is updated product 1 and the description is updated product 1 description. And see here update query also printed on the console. Let's go to MySQL workbench. Let's execute the select statement. The product updated successfully. This is a description. This is name. Now let's comment this test annotation. Let's implement fetch product details by ID. For that I am defining method that is void fetch product by ID test. Here I am using test annotation on top of this method. In order to fetch the data, we need to use product repository. Copy this repository. Product repository dot we have findById method. Here we need to provide ID. Let's go to MySQL workbench. See here ID is equal to 1. By using this ID, we can fetch this product details. Let's go to ID. Here I am giving ID 1 dot get. It returns product object like this. Let's display the product details. For that I am using sysout product. Now let's run the JUnit test case. Control function F11. See here the JUnit test case executed successfully and select query also printed on the console. See this is the product object. We are fetching product by ID. ID is equal to 1 like that. Now let's implement saveAll method. By using save method, we can save only single object. If you want to save multiple objects, then we will use saveAll method. Let's implement saveAll method. Before that, let me comment these methods. Let me implement the method that is void saveAll products test. I'm using at the test annotation. Now let's create the product objects. Already we have product details, right? Let's copy this. Paste here. This is product 1 details, right? Let me rename this variable Alt Shift R product 2. Here I'm changing product to 2. Let's copy this, paste here, Alt Shift R, product 3. Here also I'm changing product to 3. Let's copy again, paste here. Let's rename this Alt Shift R, product 4. And here also I'm changing product 4. That's it. We have 3 objects. Now we need to save 3 objects at a time. For that I'm using product repository dot saveAll method. This is saveAll method. Here let me provide list of product details. For that I'm using list dot. We have off method. Here I'm choosing this method because we have 3 objects. We have product 2, copy, paste here, and product 2, copy this, paste here, and product 4, copy, paste. Let me display the result. For that I'm writing sysout, that is products saved successfully. Now let's go to MySQL workbench. Let's execute the select query. Actually we have only one product record. Now let's execute JUnit test case, control function F11. Observe here, the test case passed successfully. And this is first insert query, and this is second insert query, and this is third insert query. See here, this is success message. Product saved successfully. Let's go to MySQL workbench. Let's execute the select statement. See here, 3 records are inserted successfully. Now let's implement findAll method to fetch all the entities from the database. For that I'm implementing one method, that is void findAll products test. I'm using test annotation. In order to fetch the entities from the database, we need to use product repository dot. We have findAll method. See here, this findAll method returns list of products. It returns list of products. Products dot. We have for each method. See, it is expecting consumer. In order to implement consumer, let me use lambda expression, that is product. Rightly I'm printing sysout product. Before executing this test case, let me comment this method. Now let's run the JUnit test case, control function F11. Actually we have 4 records available in the database, right? See here, the JUnit test case executed successfully. Select query printed on the console. We have these 4 product records present in the database. Now let's implement deleteById method. Delete an entity by ID from the database. So let's comment this method. Let me implement the method, that is void deleteById method. And the test annotation. Let's go to MySQL workbench. I want to delete 14th record. In order to delete the record in the database, here I'm using product repository dot deleteById. Here I'm providing ID 14. Let's display the result, that is sysout product deleted successfully with ID 14. Now let's run the JUnit test case. And the test case passed successfully and delete query printed on the console. and this is the output, that is product deleted successfully with ID 14. Let's go to MySQL workbench. Let's execute this select statement. See here, product with ID is equal to 14, deleted successfully. This is deleteById method. Here we are passing ID. And we have one more method, that is delete method. That delete method will expect entity object. Let's comment this method. Let me implement the method void delete method. I'm using test annotation. In order to delete the entity, first we need to fetch that entity by ID. For that I'm using product repository dot findById. Here we need to provide ID. Let's go to MySQL workbench. See here, the product record with ID 13. I want to delete this 13th record. Let me provide 13 dot get. It returns product object. Now let's call product repository dot delete. See here, this delete method will expect entity, that is product. Let me display the message, that is product deleted successfully. Let's run the JUnit test case. See here, the JUnit test case executed successfully and delete query also printed on the console. See, this is the result, that is product deleted successfully. Let's go to MySQL workbench. Let's execute select query. 13th record deleted successfully from this table. Okay, I will see you in the next video.